All right, I think we are live. So we are live. All right, okay. This is another day here in sunny side Dubai. Me and George were just having a kind of like a regular chat. Apparently, George cut his leg or something. So hopefully he's all right. Hopefully you don't pass out in this live stream, bro.
No,
you don't
I'm
want
doing, no, I'm doing perfectly well and fine, brother.
Yeah, man. Man. First off, great to see you, man. Hope you're doing good, dude.
Doing great, and we have quite a lot to talk today, isn't it? I mean, starting from, let's say, some basic
fundamentals. Oh, man, I don't know where to begin. Definitely I have my favorite news, but you know what? Let's not focus about me. It's about you, George, because I know you are bringing in some of the top news in the cryptocurrency, blockchain, Web3, and the emerging tech space. So, that being said, take it away, George.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is, Markose, just run through a couple of basics of open blockchain. So things like, double spending. Now, I'm hoping that listeners are aware of what double spending are. But when I do a lot of consultation, it really irks me to know that people still don't understand what double spending is. So I thought, we'll just go through some basics of what double spending is. Then we look at the pillars of open blockchain. Now, the pillars of open blockchain is popularized by Andreas Antonopoulos, so I think our listeners should definitely go ahead and check out his videos. He just might be the greatest educator, probably so far as Bitcoin and open blockchain is concerned. Even Vitalik Buterin asks him for advice, in terms of what needs to be done. And then we want to look at blockchain trilemma problem, followed by a weekly recap. So that is essentially what the schedule is, isn't it, Markose?
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. No. That's interesting because I do remember in the early days, double spend was a big issue. Way before the blockchain, the hash was,
Absolutely.
So that was a cause for concern. So I guess because people, I'm assuming because people.
Yep.
Think of it as, a long time ago, maybe, it's history or something. But hey, you know what? It could be, it is possibly could be a current problem to deal with, I mean, especially with a lot of new people coming in.
Yep.
And, crypto adoption is coming up. When you're dealing with, customers and merchants, that's where the real deal comes in. So
especially,
let's begin, sir.
Especially with central banks, that's going to venture into our lives probably in 3 to 5 years from now. So critical that we truly understand what double spending is.
Yeah.
So the big question is, what is double spend? And as the word indicates, the ability to go out and spend the same thing twice. Now, I think our listeners should know that before Bitcoin, there were quite a lot of other cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin wasn't technically the first. There were quite a lot of cryptocurrencies before Bitcoin. They had a problem that is double spend, which essentially means if Markose has, let's say, 10 cryptocurrency, he can spend the same 10 cryptocurrency, more than 10 worth of 10 crypto. He can, let's say, give 5 to me. He could give it 5 to Joe Biden. He could give 5 to President Donald Trump. So essentially, he can spend 15, whereas he actually has only 10. So that is essentially, in a nutshell, what double spending is, isn't it? Now, Markose, you were laughing when I said Joe Biden. That's your favorite president, isn't it?
Totally, absolutely, because you know what, I think he's a great president, man. I think he is doing some pretty cool stuff at the moment, so okay. I think it's more like a laugh of disdain, so
100%.
But then again, there's any other president too, so
true.
If you know my political philosophy, so which I won't share over here. But definitely, again, it is funny to, that I would send, 5 Bitcoins to Joe Biden? I'm being too nice, man.
Crypto, no, yeah, because Bitcoin has solved the double spending problem. So essentially, if a person has, let's say, 10 crypto, he has the ability to go and spend it more than 10, which is kind of does not make any sense. So that is essentially what Satoshi Nakamoto did. His biggest innovation was actually that he solved the double spending problem. Now, we won't make it too technical. How did he go and solve the double spending problem? It's pretty simple. He took cryptography, he merged that with hashing algorithm, And then he also added mathematics. Now, technically speaking, Satoshi did not invent anything because, cryptography, so far as Bitcoin is concerned, we use SHA-256. The hashing algorithm was already in place, and there is mathematics which he hasn't created. So essentially what he did, he combined all of these three things, and that's how he went ahead and solved the double spending problem. This is just at a very, very macro level. Now the big question is, when you talk about permission blockchain, because I'm seeing quite a lot of, reports talking about permission blockchain, especially with the tokenization world, we need to understand that double spending is 100% possible, which just means, can the people in charge go ahead and create more crypto? The answer to that is yes. Can they go ahead and rewrite the ledger? And unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. So critical that we truly understand what double spending is. Now, with central bank digital currency, they are going to be chosen officials involved. Can they go ahead and double spend? The answer to that is yes. See, CBDCs definitely can go ahead and double spend, which means they can go ahead and rewrite the whole ledger. Now, regarding stable coins, they can't double spend, but what they can do is they can definitely go ahead and freeze your account. So people are massive advocates of stable coins. Now look, we've mentioned this thing so many times. Stable coins, according to me, are just replacing the role of a bank. And likes bank go ahead and freeze your account, stable coins can definitely go ahead and do that. We talked about Tether USDT. They have gone ahead and froze. They have put out a statement that they will freeze accounts of people in Venezuela because there's a lot of sanctions going on against the state, the state that manages the oil. And Joe Biden has said that we don't want it, and Tether said, yeah, fine, we'll go ahead and sanction any of the addresses that use stable coins over there. So regarding stable or double spending, I think that is just at a very basic level what double spending is. Can we do double spending with current fiat money? 100% yes. So when you talk about the whole geopolitical chaos, one of the things, which Julian Assange talked about, the goal of war is not to have a successful one, but an endless one.
Yeah.
What he's hinting about is,
exactly.
And what he's hinting about is that, people are using the money to go ahead and do wash trading, get their checks and balances right. So, that is essentially what double spending is.
Yeah, and I want to add to this, I know, George, but not many people know that, I'm a big supporter, and then I guess many of the Bitcoin OGs in the space, many of the libertarian guys, they all follow Dr. Ron Paul.
Yes.
And he made the statement about, there is a correlation with central bank. Let me see. I'm in the camera. Okay. Central banking, the age of central banking is in tune with war, basically. So whenever you have central banks, you will have wars. Whatever it is, local wars, regional wars, world wars, so this is something that, we all have to be aware of. I think, and this is something I always keep saying, we all have to learn history. And if it's not, okay, if you don't learn, I know economics can be boring, unfortunately, I remember my high school here in Dubai, so the way they teach economics is so bland. I'm sure in India too. Now the most exciting thing, you just memorize and repeat stuff. But history, once you look at in a view of a storyteller, and I'm sure you watch enough of Bollywood, Hollywood, visualize it, you could really see wow, wait a minute, man, central banks I would dare to say that central banks cause wars. I think I'll be blunt about it.
I mean, they give you the ability.
So, anyways, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I would say they give you the ability to go ahead and manage, checks and balances. Yeah, but part of it. Let's say if there was no central bank and if the world worked, let's say on Bitcoin or open blockchain, then there is less possibility of war, isn't it? But so as long as we understand.
Yeah.
So the big question is, with central bank digital currency, we can definitely go ahead and double spend. Even this thing with permission blockchain, and this is where the area of tokenization kicks in, because we'll probably have to discuss it at a completely different topic. When you talk about tokenization, we have to go ahead and do KYC and AML. How will it work on an open blockchain? I really am not sure, because you go ahead and sell it on a secondary market. So the best option is to do it on a permission blockchain. Now in a permission blockchain, there is a very high possibility to go ahead and double spend, easily possible. Now you could have rules and regulations, and person going ahead and changing that ledger, that person could be legally penalized. But the point is, there is an ability to go ahead and double spend. That's essentially what the point is. Now, do you want to touch base on the pillars of open blockchain, Markose, which I think a lot of people are not understanding what the pillars of open blockchain are. And I've been doing consultation going back to 2016. And I remember a particular project going back to Vietnam. They actually sent me a white paper, and it asked for an email address. And I asked, why do you want the email address? They've said, no, only once we see the email address, we'll do our investigation and then give out the white paper. That is a big upfront no. So, do you want to touch base on the pillars of open blockchain? Because this is popularized by Andreas Antonopoulos, the OG, the godfather of educating people on Bitcoin. Even Vitalik Buterin, before releasing the white paper, asked him for advice. And, he has written a couple of books. I think our listeners should definitely check it out. Mastering Bitcoin, Mastering Ethereum. And right now he's writing another book called Mastering Bitcoin. I think it's an advanced version. Now, before we move on to pillars of open blockchain, one thing I think we would know, Markose, is that Ethereum, they have done double spending when they had the DAO attack. They kind of decided to roll back the chain.
The first hack. Yeah. Well, I do recall it. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because I remember I was in Dubai, and just trying to learn about Bitcoin. Definitely, curious about Ethereum. I couldn't make much sense of it or whatever. I'm just because I remember like all these guys like Max Kaiser and all these many other Bitcoiners, they're like just shitting on Ethereum and stuff, so which is kind of interesting. But behind the scenes, like many of these guys were investing into Ethereum, so it's only a few years later I learned about it. I'm like, I don't know, I felt like I felt like when you hear like when you take wrong advice and stuff and you learn like, oh wait a minute, I felt like I was screwed over, like I missed a chance. Yeah. That's the emotion and the feeling I'm getting. So but I do remember like that hack happened. Like, I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? Like, so yeah, I recall it.
Yeah, the DAO attack. So what Ethereum decided to do is they made a centralized decision to go ahead and roll back the chain, which is an absolutely massive no. But no one talks about that. So if you were to speak about Ethereum in the purest sense, Ethereum Classic is the original Ethereum. Classic. And the Ethereum that we know right now, that is kind of like the cheated version, but that is being used right now the most. But let's talk about the pillars of open blockchain. So essentially, there are 6 pillars of open blockchain, isn't it? One is open source, you have permissionless, you have borderless, censorship resistant, neutral, and publicly verifiable. Now, listeners should know, definitely check out the YouTube version by Andreas Antonopoulos. He goes ahead and explains it really well. We'll try our level best to just do a quick refresher on that. So regarding open source, Markose, what is your thoughts regarding open source?
I guess, when I think about I don't know, it's funny you brought up open source, because there's been sort of this debate about governments, entities, they want to no, sorry, that's a topic of that's a topic of permissionless. Never mind. Sorry, I can mess it up. In terms of, I guess open source, it is the opposite consciousness to the Web2 space, or the Silicon Valley, where you have patents, you have which I remember many of the libertarians, they would have these big arguments about, do patents matter and all that stuff. And I don't know, I guess in my heart, I guess in many ways, like, I love the idea of open source, where we all can share ideas and build ideas upon each other. And a lot of these ideas, like for example with your cell phones and stuff, for example, many of these companies have built upon these patents or these ideas before. That's how the cell phone industry grew, So even though there were these patents, to say the least, but I guess it depends on which patents they would enforce. That's a whole other story. So I think for me, definitely, I would say I am in favor of open source, and I'm glad that especially Bitcoin was open source because, for example, if Satoshi tried to patent Bitcoin, for example, you and me, George, we wouldn't be talking at all.
Exactly, yeah.
Because if governments, especially in the United States, the United States patent. They have over 6,000 patents which are under the Secrecy Act. So we'll never see it. That idea of Bitcoin will never see the light of day. So
absolutely spot on. And in the cryptocurrency and blockchain context, what that means is all of your codes are completely open for absolutely anyone to go and verify it. And I've seen numerous projects where they don't share the white paper. They're saying, no, what if someone copies it? That's unfortunately not how open blockchain works. That's how permission blockchain works. And as we talked about earlier, in permission blockchain, there's the ability to go and do double spending. Central bank digital currencies, they most likely will not have the source code completely open. Now, the big question, I think a lot of the developers would know where to go and check it. What you and me can do is we can go to GitHub and check the source code, let's say, of Ethereum. You can check the source code of, let's say, Bitcoin. Now, I very specifically remember when the SEC did give, or the Wells notice to Ethereum Foundation, they actually put it up on GitHub. They didn't mention it via Twitter initially. They actually put it up via Twitter they actually put it up via GitHub that the SEC has served them Wells notice. And they're asking for further investigation. So GitHub is where, you can go and check all the source codes. Now, what is more important to understand is that, not only can you access this source code, you can go and utilize it as well, which means Markose, let's say you see a Bitcoin source code. If Markose wants to go and create his own Bitcoin, he has the ability to go and create a fork of it. And we discussed this, I think, last week as well, isn't it? So that is essentially what it is. Now the question is, can a centralized entity, let's say like Facebook, can they go ahead and do their source code completely open source? And the answer to that is yes. That is essentially what Elon Musk has done with Twitter. And that is essentially what he wants to do with XAI as well, isn't it? He wants to have his artificial intelligence, which most likely is a centralized project, but the source code will be completely open. Absolutely anyone can go and check it.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I was reading a news, Markose, and I want your opinion and probably our listeners comment on this. What are the dangers of open source? So let's say, and this was a news I read regarding artificial intelligence being used for managing road transport. So let's say if the source code is completely open, what if some notorious characters, let's say like terrorists, they go out and take access to that information and they know the traffic pattern, they know when to go out and do, let's say, a notorious attack. That is one possibility as well, isn't it, in open source? What are your thoughts regarding that?
I guess
geolocation being completely open source. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think I'm getting some audio feedback from your side, George. I mean, 1 2 1 2. Okay. No, I'm not hearing. Okay. No, we're fine. Oh, so no, it's kind of weird. But anyway, I guess in terms of the dangers of open source. Now, if you use this example, I guess look in some way, I would say, look, there's always this expected danger and stuff, but just blocking some of, say, trying to put this electronic wall garden around the code, it's not going to stop terrorism and anything like that. So, I mean, there are other ways to stop terrorism. That's where I'm going off topic when it comes to KYC and stuff. To me, it's just an additional burden. It hasn't solved the problem of stopping financial terrorism and stuff. There are other ways, a more surgical strike approach to do things, but I see doing the mass KYC as more of a control mechanism. So in terms of this idea that there is a danger to open source, I think that's more of hysteria than than actual fact, I guess. So but now again, and also we have to keep in mind that like you cannot control every aspect of our lives and stuff. I mean, like I would say like that there's a better chance of I think there's more benefits with open source where there are many other folks who could use this code as a way to stop terrorism.
Yeah.
So a case could be with there's if there's a possibility of bad AI, there's a possibility of having a good AI fighting the bad AI.
True.
You can have this kind of these. I'm sure there are many military scenarios that have taken place and stuff. So I think this is more. I think this danger of open source, I think, is fear mongering tactic, in my opinion.
I 100% agree. And now the next question regarding open sources, who can go ahead and amend any of these codes? And that's where, you have Bitcoin improvement proposal, Ethereum improvement proposal kicks in, and they have different standard SOPs for that. You go ahead and put forward your proposal, you get the community to vote for it, you probably require X percentage of people saying in favor of it, and then you go ahead and let the community decide to go ahead and make the changes, isn't it, to the code. Now let's talk about the next one, which is permissionless. Now, so far as Bitcoin or Ethereum or open blockchain is concerned, in the purest sense, there should be no KYC, no ML. A 5-year-old should be able to use it. So it is completely permissionless. But again, the question I have is regarding tokenization. And this is something which I think the regulators are still working upon. So I'm not sure how this thing will be fixed, at least for now. So permissionless is pretty simple, isn't it, Markose?
Yeah. So sorry, I just had to laugh about because just I think I had a conversation with somebody. Oh, I was listening to. I don't recall, but I'll tell you this: like one of the things when I think of Bitcoin, I think of permissionless.
Yep.
So, but when I think of governments, I think of regulations, and I'm thinking like, how can governments regulate permissionless Bitcoin? I mean, to me, it's this. I think the best example I can think of is two magnets of opposite polarity. Is this going to bounce off each other? So, I think for all the legal folks out there, I gotta ask you guys, like, how's that going to happen? I'm sure you can just write it on paper and stuff, but
it won't happen. The answer to that is it won't happen. Because that's one of the pillars, isn't it? Yeah.
I know, yeah. Now I'm trying to create suspense, John. I'm like, man, you're like, how you do it? But I love your style. You're like, nah, it's good. It's like, you can't do it. You just can't.
Yeah.
Guys, that's why you gotta listen to John, right? Because he's going straight to the point. Bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Or in this case, sir.
And the same thing, with Ethereum also, or any of, even NFTs, I don't think so you require absolutely any KYC or AML. But reference to tokenization, if it is built on an Ethereum blockchain, you need to do KYC. So at this point of time, I think it would make more sense to do it on a permission blockchain or on a central bank digital currency, because when you talk about CBDCs or central bank digital currency, or let's say a regular banking system, we require KYC, you require AML, isn't it? Now let's talk about borderless.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also pretty simple and straightforward. Bitcoin transactions can be done absolutely anywhere in the world. I think, Markose, you would know that somewhere in 2016, a transaction was done in space as well. I think it was in 2017 after the halving. So Blockstream, what they did was, try to do just to check, if it takes place or not. So yeah, you can do borderless transactions absolutely anywhere in the world. There's no sanctions, absolutely nothing. But regarding Ethereum, there could be some problem regarding borderless. And we'll touch base on that when we talk about, let's say, I think it's regarding censorship. We'll touch base on when we talk about censorship regarding borderless. But what about stablecoins? Do stablecoins follow the ethos of open blockchain? Because as you mentioned earlier, Tether USDT has openly said that they will not allow transactions taking place in Venezuela. That is one specific country.
That's messed up.
And yeah, so, stablecoins definitely do not follow 100% ethos of open blockchain. Now let's talk about the next one, Markose, which is censorship resistant, which just means transactions cannot be censored. Now, just to give some basics regarding Bitcoin miners, the miner's role is not to validate or not to approve the transaction, rather. Their role is to validate the transaction. So when they validate the transaction, all they are doing is checking, does this private key matches with the public key and do they have the funds? That's it. They don't do absolutely anything else. They cannot say that, oh, he's from Venezuela, we're going to go out and reject the transaction. That is at least what happens so far as Bitcoin is concerned. But regarding Ethereum, there is a list of sanction addresses. And now if you go to the Department of Justice website, they often keep on updating the sanctions list. Now, I don't know, probably someone who's an Ethereum miner, they can tell us how do you go out and, handle a public address that is being sanctioned. Because if you go out and approve these transactions, you're going to be heavily fined, probably much more than just fine as well, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. I mean that part. I haven't dived into some of the I guess in this regard, like, okay, how much is the fine and what's the punishment, all that stuff. So, but it is, yeah. But I do remember, yeah. I think the OFAC list has all these. It's kind of interesting because I remember when I was working at American Express, when we were evaluating these high net worth people. There are some people who are, we try to avoid certain politically connected people for various reasons. But there's also, Amex is connected to the whole fact list. They check and see, so names and passports, all that stuff. So, very interesting. But it's kind of interesting to see how they have expanded their reach. That's, for me, it's quite disturbing.
And now you already have bots. So let's say if a miner accidentally picks up an address which is in a sanctioned list, there are bots that will automatically pick it up and, publish it via Twitter. So it's very easy to do that. And then you have, forensic analysis firms like Chainalysis. They will go ahead and pick up these transactions and they'll find out, who the miner is. Have they done it intentionally or have they not done it intentionally? Now, I want to go ahead and touch base on something which you might remember, Markose. So you remember the chaos between Tone Weiss and Roger Ver that happened in the ship?
Yes, so, of course.
There was because we have talked about this, there was a promise where Tone Weiss said that I'll go ahead and do a transaction and my transactions will go faster than Roger Ver's transaction. And the miner did actually go ahead and pick up Tone Weiss's transaction. And Andreas Antonopoulos was really, really upset about it because what he said is that this just shows that miners, even in Bitcoin, let's say, they can choose not to go out and take Roger Ver's transaction. This is, in theory, you could also make an argument, though, if needed, we can never go out and take Roger Ver's transaction. But this is just a one-off case. So could that make Bitcoin also not censorship resistant? I don't know, but a lot of people, or some of the cypherpunks were really unhappy about that thing. That, they went out and
I do remember that.
And they actually showed it that, see, my transaction has gone through.
Yeah, something to do with because of the Lightning networking and stuff. But that was like a one-off case. But a lot of times, like the Lightning never works, and even now too. I mean, like I just get so fucking tired. Apologies for the cuss word. You guys get used to it. Like because I remember like at that conference in the sea, or like at the cruise ship, right? This conversation, the Lightning network will be fixed like in 18 months. Every 18 months we hear this thing, even till 2024. I'm seeing some people on LinkedIn too. Like some of you guys present like, Lightning, is it this evolving thing? Seriously, like this is almost like 8 years now. Like, but these are the same people too who would like talk crap about, like, say, Ethereum or any other blockchains, like, they can't do this, they can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, it's weird. And especially with this channel system and stuff, the spoken wheel mechanism. I mean, like, so many people, it's not just Roger Ver, even Eric Voorhees too. I know, I remember Dan Held, he has his argument and stuff. I know he has a personal vendetta against Roger Ver too. I know, it's a long story, but a lot of times on Twitter, Eric Voorhees has to put him in sometimes in his place or whatever. But that was that was interesting. But I think also, I think there was, if I recall, there was more to the competition with Tone Vays and Roger Ver, because there was maybe either mistaking with Tone Vays, or I was mistaking with Charlie Lee from Litecoin. But like in terms of the number of adoptions, but actually Roger Ver, if I remember correctly, he won it. But Charlie Lee had some technicality. But I know that's a whole separate thing. But the one with Tone Vays, now if I remember, man, George, you're right. I think that was interesting. Like not only just Andreas Antonopoulos, potentially Eric Voorhees too, and there are many others of the cypherpunk guys too. So it's just I can see why, like Eric Voorhees, he moved towards, like even though he's a big Bitcoin guy, he moved towards Ethereum. Now he's working on some other interesting stuff. So can see why. But very interesting. It's a very interesting question. I think not many people want to bring up what you said, right? Topic of double spending in Bitcoin, and the what do you call in the specific the topic of censorship resistance, when we're talking about can miners choose or not choose transactions.
Exactly.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Wow.
So essentially what you're trying to say is that, if miners do go ahead and censor these transactions, you're essentially not following the ethos of open blockchain. So in case of permission blockchain, the miners can, or rather the blockchain can go ahead and set rules that, we don't want to go ahead and approve these transactions. So in that case, you're not following an open blockchain protocol. What you're doing is just using a software. You can do it much better probably in just a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet as well, in my honest opinion. The next point is regarding neutral. Now, this is very simple and basic, which just means the value of using Bitcoin, or the experience of using Bitcoin, is pretty much the same. So let's say if you are someone in Zimbabwe, all you require is log in, send your Bitcoin. It's exactly the same, let's say, in Iran, Japan, China, absolutely anywhere in the world. In contrast to, let's say, the banking world, if you are in, let's say, Zimbabwe, I'm pretty much sure you have to do more extra KYC. There is additional fees. So the experience is not the same, isn't it? So let's say we are in Dubai.
Oh, right, yeah. For banking? Yeah.
The experience is relatively much easier, isn't it? But let's say if you are in some of the so-called underdeveloped countries, it would require a lot more KYC. The time taken is much longer. But in Bitcoin doesn't check which country you're living in, or even Ethereum or any other cryptocurrency for that matter. It doesn't check which country you're living in. Are you poor? Are you rich? You just go in, validate, and send your transaction. And that is essentially what neutral is. Now, the last point is regarding publicly verifiable. So essentially, this is something really beautiful, that all transactions, at least in Bitcoin and Ethereum, are publicly verifiable, which means absolutely anyone can go and validate this transaction.
Yeah.
So, we have all heard about Explorer, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin Explorer, Ethereum Explorer, Monero Explorer, Solana Explorer. We can go ahead and validate each and every of the transactions.
Pretty much any blockchain has their own Explorer.
This is something I think everyone in the cryptocurrency world at least are aware about it. Maybe someone who's not in the cryptocurrency world. And if they are listening to it, they should know that this is one of the most brilliant features of verifying any transaction. Now, can central bank digital currency have the same ability of making the transactions publicly verifiable? The answer to that is yes. But in the back end, they can go ahead and double spend it. So let's say, if Markose has a notorious twin brother, and if he's working in a CBDC project, he can say, you know what, why don't we go ahead and take, let's say, 10,000 crypto, but I'll go ahead and amend the data. But at the same time, let's make the changes in the Explorer. So that is possible with, a central bank digital currency. They can definitely make the transactions completely open source. But this is going back to, double spending. Why it is so critical and important. I think that is pretty much it, isn't it, so far as the pillars of open blockchain is concerned. And for our listeners, this is not our points. This is just Andreas Antonopoulos' point. I think his video explains it even better. So please feel free to go ahead and check it out.
I know.
Yeah.
So if you have any issues and stuff, don't come after me or George.
Exactly.
Andreas has a team. He has an email. You could share your love or throw your hate, whatever, man.
Yeah. And in case listeners
Yeah.
don't know, he's one of the OGs in the space. I mean, he knows pretty much everything regarding Ethereum. Probably he knows everything about Solana.
That's
as well.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's talk
And
about.
look, just before we dive into, I guess, the blockchain trilemma, just a little shout out to Andreas Antonopoulos. There's something that I would disagree with him, but in terms of what he has done to the space, I mean, he's been doing it like in the early days for free.
Yeah.
Like, attending all these events, even though there was like me, I remember like it's like the early days here in Dubai where there's only like 2 or 3 people in the hall listening to him.
Exactly.
But now, wow, he deserves. And also, look, in return, look, the Bitcoin community has rewarded him over like $1 million in Bitcoin, and now even more, right?
Now
a lot more. So,
but I'd really like
definitely,
to. But I'd really like to see him at the Bitcoin conference session, him being the main speaker as opposed to Michael Saylor. It doesn't make any sense to have Michael Saylor, in my honest opinion.
Oh, yeah, I gotta add. I'm glad you said, because for me, I know right now a lot of people are getting excited about Bitcoin, Nashville or something like that. Nashville, but I would state that I'm not the only one who also thinks about, who has a kind of like a negative opinion about Bitcoin, Nashville, because I know other cypherpunk people thinking about it. I don't consider myself a cypherpunk, but I know other people do. Some of cypherpunks, they would say that like the Bitcoin Nashville has, to me, it's sort of a clown show. One is, for me, is like where are because they had, let's say, they had like Donald Trump, Cathy Wood, Vivek Ramaswamy, Michael Saylor, and Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden, I would definitely consider him as a Bitcoin OG, and plus also too, not many people know that he's also one of the guys who was part of Zcash.
Yep.
So he was a secret member of Zcash. Later, he doxed himself, or he shared that he is. So, it's been kind of weird, because for me, I would like to see like Edward Snowden, Andreas Antonopoulos, throw in Roger Ver, throw in Eric Voorhees, maybe Charlie Shrem. I mean, those guys.
Yep.
I don't know about politicians. I don't know. And I think, to me, Cathy Wood.
I agree to what you're saying. I think the reason why they're trying to do is they want to get mainstream adoption. So the moment you have President Donald Trump talking about it, gets a lot of attention. And see, we're also talking about it. That's, I think, the whole idea.
Yeah, and I get so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that. I do. In terms of mainstream adoption, yes. But in terms of the true spirit of Bitcoin, I don't see, personally, whether Donald Trump or Vivek Ramaswamy or even JD Vance, whatever, like, I'm sure JD Vance has Bitcoin, but doesn't mean that I'm going to take these guys seriously or whatever. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
To me, it's when you talk about, again, these guys are politicians. They're trying to get the American people's vote. Exactly. And the support of the crypto community elsewhere, whoever. So that's what we got to keep in mind. For me, end of the day, it's about the spirit of Bitcoin. It's open source. Everybody can play an important role. You and me, we are no different than Donald Trump or Netanyahu or any other rulers, any other politicians out there or rulers out there. We get to play such an important role in the Bitcoin space and how it's going to change the way we use the internet, information, money. So as a marketing person, man, George, I agree with you.
Yep.
Great marketing play. Bang it out there. Let's get it. But we, as the people in the space, in the Web3 space, we got to control the narrative.
Yep.
We have the power to control the narrative. So, that's I think that's where this internal conflict within me, George. So I don't know. That's my thing. I know.
Yeah, I agree to it. And I often feel that when it comes to regulations, it would make more sense to have, let's say, a developer be part of the regulation team to go ahead and explain this is what it is, this is what it is not. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, Charles Hoskinson. He went in and explained the Senate members, what it is he was trying to educate them, and he was giving a very long session. So did Andreas Antonopoulos as well. They were speaking to the Senate members. They were explaining to them what the technology is, and it'll be great if they can also be part of setting up the rules and regulations, because they know the teeny tiny intricacies of it, isn't it? But do you want to go ahead and start about blockchain Trillema problem, Markose? Because
sure, let's do it.
I'm seeing this thing still. A lot of people don't know what the blockchain Trillema problem is, and this terminology is actually put out by Vitalik Buterin. So essentially, it talks about scalability, decentralization, or distributed, how I personally like to call it, and security. So all it essentially says is that we need to have all of these three things. That is scalability, wherein we can do X number of transactions, hundreds and thousands of transactions, but at the same time we should not be compromising on decentralization, and the security should also be in place. Now there are quite a lot of projects, they promise 1 million transactions, 100 million transactions per second, but it is a permission blockchain, and this goes back to the whole double spending problem, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why it's so critical we truly understand what the blockchain Trillema problem is. I don't know of any project which has 100% solved the blockchain Trillema problem yet, but I don't know if our listeners know of any particular project that has solved the blockchain Trillema problem. Please educate us, because we'll definitely like to know. Because even when you talk about, let's say, Bitcoin, there is a problem with scalability, isn't it? But let's say when you talk about
scalability, big time, big time.
Now we can talk about Lightning Network and solve the scalability issue, but at least for now, it is still fairly centralized. You still have watchtowers, and there's still a lot of centralization concerns, which might take maybe a couple of decades to go and solve it.
Because, I would agree, because my when it comes to like Lightning Network, to me it's super centralized. They can how do you say, block transactions, or especially with these channels that have to go through, because someone else can close one channel and you lost it. And I remember that.
No, now there are alternatives to that. So you don't necessarily have to keep a channel open. There are quite a lot of variations for that now. It has evolved a lot since the last few years.
I hope so, because I remember that the one at Bitcoin Amsterdam, because there's one guy, I have to find that video, but he was saying that what do you say, you just have to keep sending, if your first $5 transaction doesn't go through, you got to send another one. It was such a cringe interview. I'm this panel session that I'm just how is this a thing? Because no regular person is gonna take this seriously. So I don't know. I think there's still a long way to go. But also, I'm not that comfortable with the people behind Blockstream, especially it was funded by the ex-CEO of AXA, who is this Bilderberger guy. I forgot his name is La Castries. I don't know. Interesting name. But these are similar to these WEF kind of people who I just I don't know, because I just felt I just feel in terms of you could do a lot of good things on layer one itself, but I felt they broke it, and they are offering their own products. So this is where I am a little bit I'm concerned about it. So anyway, that's a whole nother session to go over. And I think we might have to bring in some other people who are for it and also against it too. So
and even if our listeners, they do have any point where they know much more information about it, please mention them in the comments below. Now, regarding blockchain Trillema problem, I just wanted to share some examples. If you look at central bank digital currency, they can definitely scale. They can scale significantly much better than Bitcoin and Ethereum. They definitely probably have a much better security, but they're extremely centralized, and the word indicates central bank digital currency, isn't it? The same thing you can say with stablecoins also. Stablecoins can scale to a very large extent. They are extremely secure as well, but it is centralized. So the blockchain Trillema problem still exists. Now, there are a couple of protocols, which Dr. Gavin Wood has been working on. I think it is called Polkadot. They have a couple of projects which tries to solve the blockchain Trillema problem, but there is still a certain level of centralization involved in that. I mean, the whole point of, for us talking about this is, in my experience, because when I talk to some of them and do consultation, they are not even aware about what blockchain trilemma problem is. So as long as, listeners are aware of, this is what the blockchain trilemma problem is, and this is the problem that we still have, I think that's the whole idea for us to go ahead and have this session, isn't it?
But I got to ask you this: in terms of the blockchain trilemma problem, I guess a question for maybe some of the new people is this okay? They would say, okay, that's like a previous problem back in the days. Is it still a current problem right now?
The answer to that is yes. It is still a problem right now. We haven't solved the blockchain trilemma problem unless people know of any particular projects which says that it is as scalable, let's say, as MasterCard or Visa. It is 100% decentralized. You can't say that, you can't make a comparison to, let's say, Bitcoin. It is much more decentralized than the other project. It has to be distributed. That's the reason I always talk about the word distributed, Markose, rather than decentralization. And
and you're right. You're right.
And we can also talk about security. Is it 100% secure? Because look, there is a possibility that you can offer these things, but it is not secure. So that is and recently, in my Crypto and Coffee Date podcast, Markose, I talked about the Wazir Exchange hack, where it was a multi-signature wallet, and it still got hacked for $230 million. So,
That's
when
crazy.
you talk about multi-signature, so apparently, the sixth signatory was able to get access to all the 5 signatures, and, the funds are still gone, I think so. So if someone is from India, you may want to check what is going on regarding WazirX hack. So that goes back to, the whole security aspect of it, isn't it? Now, do we want to start touching base on the macro factors of what has happened since the last week, Markose?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because there's a lot of good stuff to cover, sir. And you got some good ones right here. I'm looking at it. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I mean,
let's do it.
The big news is Ethereum spot trading has gone live, isn't it? And there's
you're right, yeah.
There are quite a lot of inflows. Now, what our listeners can do is you can go to this company called Nansen. They put up a dashboard and it gets updated real time. I'm not sure, Markose, if you can put the link for Nansen, or let me try to see if I can send you the link.
Just share it in the private chat, and I will just put it as a banner, I guess.
Nansen. So they're at least right now the first to go and do that, so we can just quickly go and check what is the inflows and outflows. Okay, so I've gone ahead and send you that. Now I'm pretty much sure the ones will also go ahead and start doing it. So it tells you what are the inflows, what are the assets under management, what is the positive net flow, negative net flow. So it just becomes easier to go ahead and track it. But unfortunately, the prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum has actually gone down. And we'll talk about it as to why I feel the prices have gone down. Did you get that link, Markose?
Yes, I did. I have shared it over here, and I'm looking at it right now. ETF issuers. Okay, let me see. Let me see if I could present this bad boy over here. Screen. Bam. All right. Are you able to see the screen from my end? All right. Cool. So, all right. So, a big shout out to our friends at Nansen. Thank you, George, for the link. And right now we are looking at the ETF issuers. The first one is Grayscale ETF, percentage of total assets under management, AUM. That's the acronym. I guess abbreviation. I forgot. I keep messing with the names. It's 86.79%. Woo! We're talking about almost $7 billion, almost like $8 billion. Wow. And then you got Grayscale Mini Trust ETF. Then we got BlackRock ETF is 30 million in balance, which is interesting. Okay.
21 shares ETF.
And okay. Dollar terms. Okay. So we're seeing it. Okay. And yes. Right below we can see the ETF flows. As of today. let's see. We are, as of 25th July, 10 a.m., assets under management is 9 billion. I'm trying to see the positive net flow, negative net flow. I think it's still getting updated, I guess, but
Yeah.
But I mean, is there anything else about George? I mean, I know you understand some of these dashboards way more better than me and many other people in the space.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your?
The only thing I can say is, look, a lot of the high net worthy individuals and investors, they most necessarily will not be quite keen on spot Ethereum ETF, because with this ETF, they can't go ahead and utilize, the staking as a service feature. So rather than buying an ETF, these money managers, they want to go ahead and make money as much as possible, isn't it? So rather than spending, let's say, $10,000 in buying Ethereum spot ETF, you may as well buy the actual Ethereum and then put it for staking. That way you at least earn Ether on return, isn't it? That makes more sense. So, that is essentially what my take is. Now, the inflows were great, but one of the reasons why the prices of Ethereum and the global cryptocurrency market has gone down is because Mt. Gox, they have decided to dump in 47,000 Bitcoin, and that is one of the reasons why it has kind of created a teeny tiny panic. And along with that, Markose, we looked at a Grayscale. What they did one day before Ethereum going live, Ethereum spot trading going live, that is on the 22nd of July, they transferred $1.01 billion worth of Ethereum, and they transferred it to Coinbase Prime. So people were anticipating that they're going to dump a lot of the Ethereum, and some of them were also speculating that they might sell it and they'll go out and buy a lot of Solana. But that was one of the anticipation. But I'm not sure what the outcome to that is. Have they gone ahead and done that? But the prices have actually gone down at least since the last 24 to 48 hours. But
really? So sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry, my apologies for interrupting. No, because I was kind of hoping that I know some of the prices did for Bitcoin did go down a bit, but I was kind of hoping it would go down much more further. To be honest. I was hoping.
Yeah, I mean, now what's going to happen is because of the Nashville event, I think it's taking place today, right? 25th to 27th. There's going to be some announcement. There's going to be some partnership. Now, via LinkedIn, Markose, I think it is fake news. What some of them, the same guy, who put out the jargons or the acronyms of the Web3 space, he has put out a LinkedIn message stating that President Donald Trump has said that he's going to buy 210,000 Bitcoin and keep it as a reserve. How is he going to do that? He's not even the president yet. And I'm not. He's trying to use the 210,000 with 21 million Bitcoin. So he's saying that once US does that, other countries will follow it. It could be possible that he makes an announcement that once he becomes the president, he's going to go out and buy X number of Bitcoin and put it as a reserve.
Yeah.
But at this point of time, it looks like it is
that part I don't. I'm not going to hold my breath because. Donald Trump, but also many other politicians too. Again, like they're going to make all these announcements, but I know some of my friends who are more, I guess, from the left. That they're not a big fans of Donald Trump, but they're like, hey, look, like he said he's going to like jail Hillary Clinton. That didn't happen. So so I guess I know that's more like a political news, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that till they make it into law and stuff, and they make that action, then we should be excited about it. So that's something we gotta keep in mind. But then again, I'm just like, wait a minute, what? All right, doesn't the United States government has a lot of Bitcoins from Silk Road, right?
Yeah, they do have a lot of Bitcoins, but the idea is, Markose, once they put it as a reserve, that will kind of help the US dollar. And once US does it, I'm pretty much sure United Arab Emirates will do it, France will do it, Germany will do it, all other countries will start doing it. And our listeners should check out some of the videos by Simon Dixon, who's one of the OGs in the Bitcoin space. He's literally been talking about Bitcoin even before Bitcoin was created. He's the CEO of Bank to the Future. He's one of the OGs of OGs, the king of all kings. He has been talking about, governments to go out and buy Bitcoin and put it as a reserve. it is kind of something to what President Nayib Bukele is doing. But, he's talking about doing it at a massive scale. So,
Yeah. I do recall, too, like, even also, like, Simon Dixon, even Roger Ver and all, like, because, many of them thought, like, I guess idea, like, has more retail, more like a grassroots level, use Bitcoin as peer-to-peer and, creating these economies and stuff. The governments would be forced to actually, like, buy some Bitcoin, which will be like a amplifier for many things, because this, I guess, that term FOMO wasn't there that time, but that was the kind of this roadmap of actions that's going to take place, because these guys would have no choice but to play the game of Bitcoin instead of this fiat game. So, you're right. Yeah, this is
and the biggest moment was when Larry Fink changed his stance, isn't it? That is one big aha moment, at least for everyone. Now, this week, Markose, in fact, the episode that I released today, that is the 25th of July, I talked about 2 stablecoin news, and both the news are completely unique in the sense, Hong Kong, they are planning to launch a stablecoin, but it is going to be pegged to Hong Kong dollar, not the US dollar, which I think is great and interesting. And along with that, South Africa, they have already got and launched a stablecoin that will be backed by their currency, which I believe is called as Rand, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
So is this a trend that we are going to see, Markose? Now, this goes back to, the petrodollar agreement. Because the petrodollar agreement has been cancelled, because BRICS is coming up, people may not necessarily be using, let's say, the US dollar anymore. They want to go out and do transactions in the native currency. The currency becomes stronger. Could it be possible that, other countries go out and start issuing stable coins rather than it being backed by the US dollar? Why don't you go out and back it with our own native currency? So that is essentially, I do think we might see that trend where a lot more stable coins are being issued rather than it being backed, let's say, by the US dollar, like Tether USDT is, like Circle USDC is, and most of, or even MakerDAO for that matter is. So rather than having it backed by US dollar, it's going to be backed by the native currency. That is one trend which I'm observing, and I wouldn't be surprised over the next coming months and years we will be seeing that. Now, regarding stable coins, Markose, I did have an interview with Andrew Whitworth, who's the former policy director of Ripple, and he was actually saying that whether we like stable coins or not, stable coins are much better than fiat currency because they're at least backed by something. Because let's say they're backed by treasuries. If we look at the USDT, they're backed by treasury. But when you talk about fiat currency, most often they're not. They're created out of thin air or they are backed by debt. So, in comparison to that, at least stable coins are significantly better, isn't it? But I think we've covered about stable coins. We've always talked about UAE government launching the stable coin, isn't it?
I know, right? Yeah.
That thing should happen. And regarding the cryptocurrency market, Markose, the other trend which I personally like is, the volume of decentralized to centralized exchange dominance. It is very high this particular week, which is great. The volume of DeFi, and this is for everyone who's working in the cryptocurrency space, the volume in DeFi has been absolutely horrendous for the last 4 years. It hasn't crossed the $5 billion mark. So when you look at the volume of DeFi, decentralized finance, it always hovers, let's say, $3 billion, $4 billion. What is a bit crazy, Markose, is before 2020, on an average day, the 24-hour volume of decentralized finance used to hover somewhere between the $12 to $16 billion mark. So when you talk about decentralized finance, it's great. We talk about these, but people are just not using decentralized finance. The usage is still relatively less, even in comparison to the last 4 years. But just on one day, the volume pumped up to, I think, $9 or $8 billion. But other than that, it has, in fact, I can't even think of a day where it has crossed a $5 billion mark, to be honest.
Okay. But I guess I want to ask you, in terms of, like, the consistency, like, we are not, like, in the DeFi space, we haven't been, like, $5 billion consistent, right? That's
not
even
at least
close,
4
right?
years. Just one day test touched up to $8 billion. It should be, according to me, Markose, decentralized finance should account for a majority of the chunk, definitely more than stable coins. It should be, $40 to $60 billion on a daily basis. Because we are talking about decentralized finance. We are talking about peer-to-peer transactions, isn't it? Even stablecoin should not be there. Yeah, so ideally that should be the actual use case. But it's strange to know that the volume of decentralized finance has actually gone down, and it has been going down. But this week, the volume of stablecoins has been relatively better, but it is still almost half of 2020 matrix. You can make an argument that people are using other forms of let's say exchange, let's say Solana, to go out and buy Bitcoin as opposed to directly using stable coins. That is also one argument that could be made. But other than that, what else do we have, Markose? dApps.
dApps?
Yeah, I had one question, Markose, regarding dApps, and this is even for our listeners. What our listeners can do is go to dappradar.com. You can look at decentralized apps that are working on blockchain protocol. Now, decentralized apps means are apps that we have, let's say like Tinder or Instagram, to be working on blockchain protocols, let's say like Ethereum or Solana. If any of the listeners are using any decentralized apps, please let us know, because for a fact, I don't use it. I don't use any decentralized apps. I have done a survey via LinkedIn and I asked, I think 61 of them, they said, no, we don't use it. And 61 of them are people who are CEOs, CTOs, and tech founders who are actively building things in the decentralized, so-called decentralized Web3 world. So if any of our listeners are using decentralized apps, do you use, Markose, any decentralized app on a day-to-day basis? I definitely do not. And I'm not talking about decentralized exchanges.
Oh, okay. If you're talking about like minus decentralized exchanges, not really. I would say the closest thing to a dApp would be, let me see, hold up.
You can say maybe an NFT is kind of like a dApp, but if there are listeners who are...
In a sense, I know, but for example, like a big user, one of the big users of Bitcoin.com, so they have like the NFT thing, and also they also have this kind of like not like a clicker game. It's sort of like a clicker game in a sense, but again, I just don't have the time to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build the future, but hopefully, in terms of a dApp, for example, with ORT, they're going to have this data hub thing. So basically, this data hub is a community-driven, data generation app. So I don't know if that would be close to a decentralized app, I guess. This one. But
can you go and double spend in that, Markose?
I don't know about that. No. This one, it's verified on the OATS blockchain, which is based on Dr. Max Lee's his patent, proof of honesty, so it's quite interesting. So I definitely want to check that out and see. So, but to answer your question directly, if you minus the DEXs, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. If there are listeners who are using it, that is great. Please let us know. Now, regarding decentralized apps, Markose, there are two metrics I think we should be looking at, and I wanted your opinion. Tell me what is right or wrong. We can check it in terms of...
sorry, just one question. Sorry to interrupt. I just realized I've been using Eric Voorhees his app or dApp called Venice.ai, which is his version of ChatGPT. So I got the Pro thing connected to my MetaMask. So I've been using it. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that is a perfect.
Yeah, so that's
100%.
Okay. Yeah. So that's right.
That is a brilliant use case, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. So that case, yes. Hold on. Let me just show right here.
That is a brilliant use case, I think. So 100%.
So yeah. So you could I don't know here like it's a similar. So I was trying to create trying to generate this thing, these images and stuff. So yeah, so this is actually connected to my MetaMask, my MetaMask wallet.
That is a brilliant.
So it verifies that I have a morph token, and it detects it. So yeah, so that's one area, so which is nice. So slowly getting there.
That is a brilliant use case. Thanks so much, Markose. I think I'm going to start using that also. That is a brilliant use case. So out of 61, maybe I need to put it 2. Yeah.
And the best part is about with Venice.ai, it definitely protects your privacy. So they they definitely do not share your data to any like for example OpenAI. They send all their data to a centralized entity in Nigeria for data pre-processing, which is not verified. It is just black box experience, so you just don't know.
And they don't censor anything as well, because I was listening to his episode with Peter McCormack. So, I think our listeners should definitely check it out. And that is a perfect use case, of open blockchain. No double spending. There are no tokens or cryptocurrency associated with that as well, isn't it?
Not with Venice.ai, but I think it's built on the Morpheus network, which is Eric Voorhees. So if you have at least one Morpheus token, you get the pro version. Otherwise, you gotta pay for it. They have a special offer, it's $49 for the whole year.
Yeah.
Instead of $100. So it was nice. I thought, at least either you pay yearly or something, or hey, just get one Morpheus token. So right now it's $25. When it started, it was $100. But hey, I guess the more people use it, the value goes up. So which is great. So I'm okay, why not?
Now, I've sent you a link, Markose, of dappradar.com. So there are 2 essentially ways how you can check the data. And if there are listeners think that I'm doing the wrong thing, please let me know, because I'd really love to get your feedback. So you can look at it in terms of dollar amount, which is, under the UA, under the volume tab. Or you can look at unique active wallet. I am thinking, Markose, let me know if I'm right or wrong on this. And even our listeners, please let me know if I'm right or wrong on this. I would like to see the wallet interaction, because when you talk about, let's say, Instagram for that instance, or for that matter, we are talking about how many people using Instagram, because that's how you can go and advertise it and monetize it, isn't it? So if you look on the section which says UAW, the first one, those are the top 5 apps, Markose. Have you heard of the top 5 apps, which is Hot Game? Apparently it has 1.67 million active users. I haven't heard of them. If you look at the top 5.
Okay, so the UAW means the number of unique active wallets interacting or performing a transaction with Dapp's smart contracts over a period of time. Interesting. It's number one hot. It's under Near Particle Network. It has 7 of them. Kai-Ching, Near. Interesting. Okay.
Now, I think, Markose, and maybe our listeners can correct me, when it says 1.67 million, it does not necessarily mean that these many people are using it or these many transactions are taking place. It means that these are the smart contracts. It could be possible that in these smart contracts, there might be tens, hundreds, and thousands of people using it. So this is definitely, I think, we should be looking at this matrix, because when you talk about, let's say, advertising, because Instagram or let's say Facebook, they earn money based on advertising, isn't it? So they'll be looking at how many people log in, how many people log out. So these are the transactions. So it could be possible the moment a person logs in, that is counted as one transaction. The moment a person clicks on something, that is called as one transaction. Let's say you upload a photo, that is called as one transactions. Now that is one way of looking at it. And if you go to volume Markose, the third tab, it says the fiat value of incoming token transfers. This is the matrix which I tend to see reading a lot, because it looks really fancy and nice. If you look at it, Unisoft version 3, it says $5.14 billion, isn't it?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. While you look at the unique active wallets, over 130,000, but the volume is 5.1 billion.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Balancer 1.8, Pancake Swap 332 million. Oh, okay, 1 inch. Interesting. They got 33,000 unique active wallets, but their volume is over 230 million. Interesting.
Yeah.
Pancake Swap. Fascinating. Oh, this is good. Oh, okay. Pendle. Okay, I'm curious about this. Yeah, actually, I was trying to study more about Pendle, which is kind of like real world asset kind of deal, if I'm correct.
Let's look at. I remember watching Decentraland. It had just 12 people using it, isn't it?
Oh, dude! All right, let's do this. Decentral. There.
How much is it showing, Markose?
Okay, $134,000 in volume. Unique active wallet 216.
Oh, is it showing 16? I can't see it. I've closed my screen on my end.
Okay. Because I'm sharing from my screen. I'm not able to see my screen. But here you can see right here, 216. That's crazy.
So when we talk about, decentralization, we talk about the future of blockchain technology. Unfortunately, the wallet interaction, in my opinion, should be much, much higher, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, this was an ad. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Fascinating. Pendle. Okay. They got both less. Okay. 2,000 active wallets, unique ones, and one. Huh. You got Lido here. Fascinating. Okay, this is good. Okay.
And you can further sort it down, let's say across different chains also. So let's say Uniswap version 3 tells you on different blockchain protocols that they're currently working in. So you can, sort it on just only on a specific blockchain. So I think it is a good metric, worth looking into. And the numbers are not that great considering the fact that, we're talking about a decade-old system. Almost a decade-old system in the blockchain space, isn't it?
Fascinating. Okay. Yeah. But it's good. There's definitely something to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is pretty much all, isn't it, Markose? We have covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. So just we covered everything. So you know what? Hey, but let's talk about blockchain DXB. What's going on, man? What is going on with that?
Yeah, I just have another episode. I mean, I have released 537 episodes. So guys, please feel free to go and check it out. Please give it a 5-star rating and share the word across. That is the script I use at the end of the podcast as well. And there is an episode on payment token regulations that should be out hopefully tomorrow or most likely on Monday.
Nice.
And I'm also going to Saudi for a weekend trip. But other than that, not much. Any update, Markose? I think you had a live session on LinkedIn, right?
Oh yes, I did have a live session with Paul G. Conlon. So he's based in Australia, and he is planning to publish his book on identity. Mm-hmm. So I guess specifically the DID space. But his is quite a comprehensive book because it covers his grandmother's journey in Nazi Germany. And he has gone through the Nazi archives, how the regime has used the identity system to build their empire and, to subjugate people, and also how there was this public sector corporation in building their businesses and running on the slave system. And that's because of how they use data, and especially you can include also identity as data as well, but just for this conversation, how they use that identity as a way to connect the data to run the economies, to, take away your freedom of choice. And it was really interesting. So I want to propose to you, George, that for our next live stream, he would be happy to join us on a live stream.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I think, man, George, because I know, George, you definitely have some of the best questions, really thoughtful, insightful questions about, why why not only just data, but identity matters. And we also did cover about AI as well, because, AI is a voracious machine that consumes a lot of data and energy, and how we use that has unintended consequences. And that's why, also bringing in Ord, how why we believe in the decentralized AI narrative. And, we need AI, but also blockchain to create a trustworthy AI for humanity.
Yep.
So, and definitely identity plays a role, even though it is part of data, but that specific piece is the essence that really makes AI and data truly wholesome, truly just beyond description. So there's definitely I want to make that happen. So definitely that's something. Want you guys stay tuned, and this is going to be a really a learning experience. So
yeah, I think it'd be great if he joins us. Yeah.
So yeah. So guys, other than that, so George, before we close, anything else?
No, that's about all, guys. I mean, the only thing I would say is, on the 30th and 31st, I think, is when Jerome Powell will be making a decision regarding the interest rate hike. It's towards the end of this month. So that'll be...
All right.
Yeah. Monday and Tuesday.
Awesome, Wednesday. Guys. All right. We will look forward to Tuesday. Let's see how the markets react. So anyways, fam, we got to go. Y'all be good. Y'all be safe. We'll talk to you soon.